And today, I always get in the shower in the mornings on these days, and I kind of start to get ready, and I think through my head, what do I want to talk about today? What's on people's hearts and minds? And sometimes I get questions from you. By the way, if you have a question, by all means, drop it in. It's been a long and rough week. Looking forward to some accountability. I feel it, style. I feel it. I need some accountability for myself. In fact, that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about today. So let's here's what it is, okay? Here's what I'm gonna talk about. Here's what it is in my life, and I think it's in your life too. You know that feeling you get when you know that something needs to be done, but you just cannot do it. You cannot not even. It's like you can't get it done. That's one thing. If you're just going, oh, I can't figure out how to get this done. That's one thing. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is when you literally cannot bring yourself to do it. Do you know why that happens? Here's why. It's not because it's unclear. And it's not because you don't have time. And it's certainly not because you don't want to do it. I'll tell you a story. In addition to the coaching and consulting that I do and the streaming career that I have and love, I also do audio production. I've done audio production from a number of years. I started podcasting in 2018, and I know that may surprise some of you who know how many audio problems I have on the streams, but that's a whole different technological puzzle. But I've been broadcasting, or I've been podcasting since 2018. I've been narrating audiobooks professionally since 2020. So I do audio production. Hey, you're late. Kat, you're not really late. You are not late because my internet crashed right when I was supposed to go live. So we're just getting started. You're right on time. You just didn't know it. How are you? I am amazing. I am incredible. And I hope that you are good too. And today we're going to talk. I was just telling a story. So I'm an audio producer in addition to a lot of the other things that I do here. And I got a project from a friend recently. She called me up and she said, hey, we've got this playwright who wrote this amazing play. It's 2 characters, and we just want to do an audio recording of it and put it up as a podcast or something. And I said, absolutely. And she said, we'll hire you to do it. I said, that's great. I will gladly take your money to do what sounds like a relatively simple job. And so here's what happened. We set up the date to go do the recording. I went out to the place to do the recording. And on the day that we were supposed to do the recording, my equipment that I'm using right now, it's the same equipment I used to stream. We got out there and it didn't work. It just didn't work. The second microphone channel simply did not function at all. And so I had all of this set up. I drove an hour to do this. We got all these people out there to do it, and we could not do the recording. And I was embarrassed. I was devastated. Because one of the things that I pride myself on is reliability, is on being there for people when they need me. And in this moment, because of the equipment, I couldn't do it. And so they said, oh, of course, it was fine. Everything was good. And we set up an alternate time, and we went back out, and I set up the equipment, and everything worked fine. But that same week, when I came back and set up the equipment here, we had some problems in the stream. We had some issues where audio was dropping out, and things were getting too loud or they were getting too soft, and we had all kinds of problems. And so this thing that I had done, that I had recorded, and that I said, oh, no problem, it'll be like a week to do the edits, I didn't touch it. And I didn't touch it for like 2 weeks. Now, mind you, there was no deadline on this. It wasn't a rush job. But I didn't touch it. And the reason I didn't touch it is because it wasn't because I didn't know how to do it. And it wasn't because I didn't have time to do it. Honestly, it was because I was afraid. It was because I was afraid that somewhere in that setup I had missed something or something had gone wrong. And that somehow there was going to be something that was going to make me have to call these people back up and maybe go out and do another recording, or just have to admit that it wasn't what I'd planned it to be, right? And that it wasn't going to live up to the client's standards. And I think that is why we don't do what we know needs to be done. Now, I knew that thing had to be done. I knew it had to get done. But I didn't do it because I was afraid. And I think a lot of times we don't do what we know needs to be done because we are afraid. And we don't think of it always as fear because fear is really good at disguising itself. A lot of times fear shows up as what we like to think of as logic, just being reasonable, or planning, or wisdom. But the truth is that we delay action in our lives not because we are confused, but because we are afraid of where that action might take us sometimes, but also what it might cost us. So today, that's what we're going to tackle, right? We're going to talk about fear. I want to talk about how it hides in our lives, how we pass it off as other things, and I want to talk to you a little bit about how it shows up. But more importantly, as always, I want to give you tools for moving forward through that. And we do have some Q&A at the end. I always want to leave room for Q&A at the end. I do have a question that came in today. And if you have other questions, please, by all means, get them in. The link will pop up in chat periodically. Don't hesitate to hit that. Or, of course, you can always throw your questions in the chat as well. But let's start to talk about this. Let's talk about the lies that fear tells us in our lives. Because none of us are immune to it, right? Even me, right? I was talking about how this audio production, and I've been doing this for years and years and years, professionally. I've done it successfully across multiple different fields in multiple different industries. But I'll tell you what, that fear was paralyzing to me. So it's not something that I'm immune from. It's not something that anybody's immune from, no matter how intentional they are. Fear shows up. The question is, how do we move through it? So here's the first lie. The first lie that fear tells us to us is this. It's the confusion lie. It's the I just don't know what to do. I just don't know what to do. How many times? Be honest with yourself. Be honest with me. Be honest. Let's all be honest together. How many times a week do you tell yourself, I just don't know what to do? I just don't know what the next step is? And that may be true. There are areas of your life where honestly you may just not know what the next step is. And by the way, if you are having trouble with that, reach out to me. I would love to offer you a free session, no cost to you, to help you figure out just kind of what a strategic priority is for you in your life right now. But if we're being honest with us, a lot of the time, that is not a true statement. It's not that we don't know what we have to do, right? Like when you're not happy in your job, if you're not happy in your job right now, you don't not know what the next step is. The next step is to start applying for jobs. It's to start looking and then start applying. You don't not know that. That's not a secret to you if you're not happy in your job. If you're in a situation, maybe a relationship situation, and there's something that is really causing stress and distress in the relationship, and you need to have a conversation, you don't know. You don't not know what that conversation is. That conversation is no mystery to you. You know what it is that you need to talk about. And if you're in a position where you got a habit that is creating unhealth in your life, maybe it is something, maybe it's an addiction of some kind. Or maybe it's not even an addiction that's physical. Maybe it's not, you're not a chain smoker, but maybe it's a relationship habit that's a little bit toxic, right? Something that's driven you a little bit more into the all about myself. Or maybe it's the lack of setting boundaries so that you're just getting plowed over and your mission in life doesn't matter at all. Whatever that habit is, you know what it is. You know what habit needs to go. But you stay confused because the confusion is safer than clarity. Because when you have clarity on what's important, that state of mind demands action. When you know what you should do and you know perfectly well what you should do, you have to act. If you're going to be an integrous person, a person with integrity, and by a person with integrity, I don't mean an honest person. I don't mean a person, who doesn't lie. When a person with integrity means integral, right? One person everything moving in one direction. So if you're going to be a person with integrity and you have clarity, that demands action. But confusion is convenient because confusion lets you stay on the sidelines. It lets you watch over things and go, well, I don't know, I'm going to jump in when it's my time. So it's so demoralizing applying for jobs that I decided to do something different to distract my brain from how sad work made me. To be fair, it gave me clarity. Point of that is, you're right. Thank you. I appreciate you. So yeah, and Style, that's a great example, right? Because you knew that the first thing you had to do was apply for jobs. But when applying for jobs wasn't working, you knew that you had to change tactics, right? There was clarity around that. That clarity demanded action. You took action, and things changed in one way or another. Brickman, I had to distract my brain from the pain in my nose. Well, there you go. That's a different kind of clarity. Good stuff. So, here's the check-in, okay? I want you to ask yourself this question. If you feel like you don't know what to do, and by the way, that's where all of my clients come from. My coaching clients, they all come to me, and the one thing they say is, Andrew, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. That's the one thing they say. And so one of the things that I ask them is, ask yourself, if I did know what to do, what would it be? Right? Just, well, if I did know what to do, then what would that look like? Because you will be really shocked how fast you get clarity when you stop protecting that part of you that demands, that is confused. When you let go of confusion as a part of your identity and just say, well, I'm just a person who doesn't know where to go. When you let go of that and you go, well, what would it look like if I did know where to go? You're going to find out really quickly what you need to do to get there. And I'm going to give you an actual framework for that towards the end of the stream. So don't go away. Don't miss the rest of it. This is going to be important, okay? But right now, asking yourself, if I feel like I didn't know what to do, or if you feel like you don't know what to do, if I did know what to do, what would that look like in my life? So that's kind of the lie that it tells us, one of the lies that it tells us. And on top of that lie, we start to layer kind of alibis. We start to layer excuses on top of it. And one of the best things, and this is in general, one of the best things that fear likes to do to keep us from acting is it likes to help us overcommit. It likes to help us make sure that we're saying yes to everything. Because if you're saying yes to everything, then you never have to really face that thing that you're avoiding, right? So let's go back to my example. The audio program that I needed to produce. I didn't want to do it because I was scared of what I would find when I dug into that audio. I was afraid that something was going to be off, something was going to be wrong, and that I wouldn't be able to fix it. And so guess what? All of a sudden, I had all this work to do. I had a new coaching client who'd signed up for my private coaching program, and I needed to get all their intake stuff done. And my website, I had somebody who is starting to refer things to me as an organizational health consultant in the nonprofit space, consulting space. And so I had to get a landing page set up for that. Oh, that was really, really important. That was priority. And you can't see it, but I have a whiteboard that's over here. And at the beginning of this week, I wrote down all of the things that I needed to do on my whiteboard. And guess what? That audio thing, it was on there. But guess what didn't get crossed off? And guess what did get crossed off? So yeah, that working on the landing page got crossed off. Getting that intake out to that client, that crossed off. That got crossed off. There were a couple of other things that I had to do. It got crossed off. Doing laundry got crossed off. Doing dishes got crossed off. Those things got crossed off before the thing that I knew I had to do. See, we say yes to everything so that we don't have to admit that we're avoiding something. And it's this kind of fake busyness that feels productive. That's the lie about it. Welcome in, Rob. It's good to see you. It's okay. I was very late starting. So that's that fake productivity because we love to be productive and we love to look like we're productive. Man, there's nothing in the world I love better than having looked like I was productive. When somebody calls me up and they say, hey, what did you, if Elon Musk doges me next week and he's like, hey, Andrew, what were the 5 things you got done last week? I will tell him 5 things. I will tell him 10 things. I'll tell him 20 things that I got done last week. But guess what? Just because I got things done, and this is the mistake here, right? Just because I got things done doesn't mean I made progress. I have a client that I've been working with that's been kind of stuck in a similar place, and I have permission to share the story. So, she one of the first things I do with my clients, I am 100% guilty of that. Okay, good. I'm glad it's not just me, Kat. I'm glad it's not just me. But I have this client that I work with, and one of the first things that I do with my client is I'm like, okay, show me your calendar. If you're stuck, let's go over your calendar. And of course, a lot of people don't have a calendar of any kind. And I'm not saying you have to have like a color coded, some kind of fancy super system that's like, you're Alan Waking it with all of your strings and your cards and things like attached like that. I'm not saying you have to have a pristine vision board of any kind, but what you do have to do is you have a system for you have to have a system for tracking where you're going. And so that's one of the first things I do is I ask people, hey, let's look at your calendar and let's figure out where your time is going, right? And this client had filled every hour of her calendar. I'm not talking about just like to-do lists. I'm not just talking about, some appointments and things like that. I am talking about this client showed me an Outlook calendar that was color-coded, and there was something in every hour of every day of this calendar. There was productivity out the yin-yang, out the wazoo. Kat says, I had things that should have been priority today and cleaned the garage instead, which is important, but wasn't the most important thing. And that's where I'm going, Kat. Thank you. You already know. You've been around me long enough. You know what this is. It's not the important things. It's the most important thing. Because this client that I'm talking about, when we dug into all of that stuff that was on her calendar, none of it was connected to her goals, her actual goals. She was like drowning in all this stuff, delegation stuff and volunteer stuff that she was volunteering for at her kid's school, which again, good. All these meetings, and none of this stuff was pushing her towards what she knew she wanted in her life. Doc runs 4 calendars so I can have 96 hours per day to get things done. Hey, there's a life hack for you guys. If you just have more calendars, you'll have more time, right? I love it. I love it. And so what we're working on with this client is this. The truth is that she's got a big decision that she's facing in her life. And I don't want to go into the details, but and the fact of the matter is she knows what that decision is. And when she was filling her calendar up with all that stuff, she knew exactly what to do. She knew exactly what she needed to do. But she was scared of what doing it would mean. Because when we go back to the IDEA acronym, the execution, those are the big leaps. And if we don't feel we're prepared for those big leaps, and by the way we get prepared for those big leaps is we figure out our identity, not just our identifiers, not just my, I identify as. We don't do that. We figure out who we really are and who we want to become. We build disciplines that are daily things that we can do that will move us in the direction that we want to go, so that when we come to the point of execution, making those big leaps, yeah, they're still going to be scary, but we know we've got a system in place. We're prepared. I love it. I love it. So there's another the other thing that popped into my head this morning as I was in the shower is, yeah, busyness, absolutely. Confusion, absolutely. Perfectionism. Your perfectionism, if you're a perfectionist, I want to tell you right now, I'm going to tell you an uncomfortable secret because I have a little bit of this too. Your perfectionism is not driven by altruistic motives. It's not driven by a desire. It's not really driven by a desire to want to do your best. It's driven by a fear that you can't. It's driven by a fear that your best won't be good enough. And the things that you will say to yourself are, I just want to get this right. 100%. Thank you, Drizzy. I appreciate that. Because this is in my life again. This is Andrew talking to you real talk, right, guys? When I get into perfectionism, I'm telling myself I just want to get it right. It's just so important. It's not ready yet, It's just not. I gotta get it all figured out first, or I'm still, I'm working on a plan. I want to have a good plan. I want to make sure I go into this with my eyes open. But all of those things are just covering my eyes. The truth is that I'm afraid of doing it wrong. When I don't do a thing, it's because I'm afraid of doing it wrong. And you're the same. When you're not doing a thing, it's because you're afraid that you will do it wrong. And that goes back into your identity, because when we adopt failure into our identity and we go, hey, when I do things wrong, that means I am wrong in some way. Guys, if you're going to let go of one thing this year, let go of that. Let that be the thing you let go of. When you do something wrong, that is not who you are. Now, if it's a failure of character, it's something you need to address in your life. Because failures of character usually move themselves back to some place where we've failed to understand who we really are and who we need to be. But guys, you got to get failure out of your identity. Failure is something that happens. It is not something you are, okay? Like those old PSAs back in the 80s, those after-school movies that we used to watch. Oh, if you're not careful, you'll end up like this person, end up like that person who's a druggie on the streets or in prison or whatever else. You'll end up like those. And ending up like, what it taught us that failure becomes your identity if you just fail hard enough. And so I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to be so afraid of doing it wrong that you don't do it at all. I feel like my perfectionism is a control issue more than a feeling of fear of failure. Doc, isn't that the same thing on a level, right? Why do we want to control things? So when I want to control things in my life, the reason that I want to control them is because I'm afraid of what happens when they're out of control. Right? I'm afraid of my incapacity to handle things when they're not exactly in the lanes that I want to put them in. So it may not be a fear directly of failure, of your own failure, but it may be a fear that your systems are not resilient enough to handle the unknown. And I think that's the way that it plays out in my life as well. So it may not be that specific fear, but it is always driven by fear. We like to believe that it's altruistic, but every need for control is driven by a fear someplace in our lives. It's driven by an inadequacy, someplace, right? And usually it does come down to systems. We're afraid that our systems aren't good enough. High performers consistently struggle with this. And the reason that we do this, right, as high performers, and you guys are high performers in some area of your life. It may not be, it may not be the area that we're talking about, but the reason we do this is because we get used to succeeding. Don't we? Don't we get used to succeeding? Haven't you been really good at stuff in your life? I was working for Best Buy. I was a manager for Best Buy. And I had been a store manager, and I decided I wanted to move over into HR and maybe work my way up the HR ladder. And so I had moved over, and I'd become an operations manager. And they started closing stores. Best Buy started closing stores. This is when they started paring back a little bit, 15 years ago, 10, 12, 15 years ago. And they closed the store where I was an operations manager. And I thought, no big deal, right? Like, I'll just go get another job at Best Buy. And so I started looking around, and there was one job within like 50 miles, 60 miles of where I lived at Best Buy. It was one assistant manager position. And I thought, no problem. I had a great career with Best Buy. I was a trainer. I had created training programs. People would come to me to learn how to do the job. I thought, this is no problem. 100%. All I got to do is walk in interview for that job because I'm used to succeeding. And guess what? I didn't get the job. Did not get the job. And we get so used to succeeding that when we're high performers, we are afraid of looking dumb. That's one of the things that kind of drives me in my life a lot of the times is there's an instinctive part of me that doesn't want to look dumb. Now, mind you, one of the ways that I face that is I've made a career out of kind of making myself look a little bit dumb. And I've really come to terms with the fact that sometimes my superpower is to be the dumbest one in the room, and that's good. But when it becomes a fear issue, when we're used to succeeding, we create these high standards, things that look like high standards, but a lot of times it's just self-protection. And so we go, well, I'm not going to go after that opportunity because my standards are higher than that. Or I'm not going to do this because I'm not ready to do it perfectly yet, or I'm not ready to do it right yet. And you don't need to be perfect. You got to have momentum. And momentum is rarely perfect. It usually kind of starts and then stops and then starts and then stops, and then it eventually starts rolling downhill. So start something and then learn how to do that thing. And by the way, learn how to do that thing while you're doing it. Don't feel like you got to know how to do it going in. When I started coaching a couple years ago, I had no idea. Zero idea. I had I'd had some coaches in my life. I'd coached people professionally all my life, but when I started coaching people in their lives, I didn't know what I was doing 100%, but I knew what I did know. I knew I had some frameworks that were good and that worked and that had helped me. And so, you know what? I jumped in and I learned as I went, and I adjusted and I repeated and I did it over and over and over again. And that's what you have to do is you have to jump in and you have to start. It is important to learn while you're in process. That's where momentum starts. So you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be moving. Okay. That's what I'm telling you. So the antidote to fear, we think about the antidote to fear. And what is the antidote to fear? It's courage, right? And the popular saying is that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving in spite of it, right? It's motion in spite of fear. And I think that's true. One of my coaches, Erwin McManus, the way that he likes to say it is courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the absence of self. And I love that. I think that's so very, very good. So let's talk about how to have courage then. We're not the cowardly lion, right? We can't just we can't just get a scroll that says we're courageous and that'll make us courageous. We need an actual process for doing this. So what's our process for doing this? So I have a 3-step process that I use with my coaching clients. I'm giving this to you for free. This is absolutely free for you. The same step that I give to my paying clients. Okay, the same 3 steps that I give to my paying clients. Here it is. First and foremost, I hope you're taking notes. If you're not taking notes, get out your phone, open the Notes app, get out a pen and paper if you're old school like me, or you're remarkable if you're new old school like me. But I would just want you to take these 3 steps down because I want you to have these. They've been so successful in my life, and they've been so successful with the people that I work with that I believe they will help you. So here are the 3 things. First thing, name it. Name the fear. Naming things is an ancient thing, right? If you've ever seen like The Exorcist or any movies about exorcisms, one of the things that the priests or whoever's doing the exorcism that they're always trying to do is they're always trying to get this evil demonic entity to name itself. Because there's this ancient belief that when we have the name of something that we have control, that gives us control over it. But guess what? That belief is ancient for a reason. Because the things that we name, we actually do begin to have more control over. And it's a weird thing, but it actually plays out in your neurology. Lisa Feldman Barrett wrote a book that I love. It's called How Emotions Are Made. And she's a neuroscientist. And it turns this whole concept of how we believe about emotions and how they're formed on their head We always like to think that about emotions as being triggered. Oh, I'm triggered today. This is a trigger warning, right? Triggered, 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 triggered. But in fact, that's not the way the brain works. The brain doesn't work on triggers like that. In fact, your brain is predictive. It's not triggered, it's predictive. What your brain is doing is it is using the sum total of your experience and predicting what the response should be in any given situation. And so Barrett says if you want to control your emotional life, what you need to do to control your emotional life, the first thing you got to do is you got to get granular around your vocabulary for your emotions, which is to say, we like to about our emotions like happy and sad and angry. And that's kind of like what else? Like what else we have? Maybe frustrated, right? Or maybe like how many emotional words do you have? Depressed, upset, right? But what are those? What do those really mean? What do those shades of things mean? Like there's an emotion that I have when I turn a project in and I'm waiting to hear back and I'm nervous about what the response will be once I've turned the project in. That's not really fear exactly. It's not really anxiety exactly. What is it? It's the feeling of not knowing how somebody else is going to respond. And so when I turn something in and I'm waiting for a response back and I get that feeling and I can centralize it. It's right here kind of in the center of my torso. And when I get that feeling, that kind of sinking feeling, when I see that email flash up, right, from that client, when I get that feeling, the first thing I do is I label it. I name it. I'm like, "Oh, this is the feeling of not knowing what that response is going to be like. It's going to be okay. You've felt this before. You've had it before." So the first thing I want you to do is name your fear. What are you actually afraid will happen if you take whatever action it is? So if you're at a crossroads, if you're at an execution point in your life, and you're afraid of what will happen when you go down one route or the other, first thing I want you to do is name that fear. What are you afraid will happen if you do the thing? Okay? Number one, name it. Number two, challenge the story. So I want you to ask yourself, is this fear that I have, is it based in truth? Or is it my brain being predictive? And I go back to the kind of, I use this metaphor of, is it a snake? Is it a snake? Our bodies are, our neurology are wired to respond to things with fight or flight. And we have a tendency, until we are able to be more granular about how we label our emotions, we have a tendency to respond to every fear or every anxiety as if it's a poisonous snake that just dropped out of the trees in front of us. It causes the same response in us. So you have to ask yourself, is this really a snake? Is this fear that I have, is it based in truth, or am I projecting, right? And ask yourself, is it true, right? Is it likely? And what's the worst that could happen? Sometimes it's okay to go down the route of going, okay, well, so what? If let's go back to my story from earlier. If I had opened up that audio and it was blasted out and had dropped out in places and it was not acceptable, what's the worst that could happen? Well, I would have to make an uncomfortable phone call. Well, I've made uncomfortable phone calls in my life before. And I would have to probably re-record, which would mean, I would have to, humble myself and go, hey, I didn't get it the first time. Well, you know what? I've had to do that before as well. Does it mean that nobody would ever call me again to do another recording? Probably not. And even if it did, that's not what I do for the most part anyway. Is it going to end my career? Is it end my credibility? No. So name the fear. What are you afraid will happen? Challenge the story. Is it based in truth or in projection? And then, number three, take a little action. Just a little action. One little thing. And see, one of the reasons that we don't get things done, and I talk about this all the time, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself. One of the reasons we don't get things done is we feel like we got to take these big leaps at everything. And there comes a time when a big leap is required, but it's not all the time. So just ask yourself, what's one little step, one irreversible step, like that I can do where I can just stick my toe over the line that will get me in the right direction, right? For me, that step was, so let's go back through this, right? Let's go back through what I worked myself through this week. Name the fear. Okay, I'm afraid that I am afraid that this audio is going to be messed up and that my credibility will be shot. Okay, number 2. Is that based in truth or in projection? No, that is me, you know, taking all of that into my identity and saying, if you didn't get this audio right, then you are bad at audio production, which you know for a fact is not the truth, right? That you were working with equipment that you hadn't been working with before. There's a lot of mitigating reasons that you might have screwed this up, but it doesn't shoot all of the experience that you have that tells you you're good at this. And then number 3, take the micro action. What's one small? So I'll tell you what my micro action was. Here's the thing that set me in motion. I had all of this stuff on my, on my Rodecaster here that I use for streaming. It was the same device that I had used to do the recording. And I downloaded it onto my computer. That was the step. I downloaded it onto my computer. And then once I downloaded it onto my computer, I'm like, well, okay, let's pull it up. So I pulled it up and I looked at it. Didn't listen to it. Didn't start to edit it. Didn't start to touch it. But I looked at it. And guess what? When I looked at it, there were parts of it that weren't great. Now, I'd made some adjustments midway through. And so I knew the first part of it was not going to look exactly the way I wanted. But I looked at it and I'm like, well, there's no dropouts there. There's only a little bit of clipping and I could probably fix that. Okay. And so I pulled the next section up. And then I thought, well, let's jump into this. And I started to edit it. And I kept going through it one step at a time. Hello, turn up client. Welcome in. It's good to see you. My name is Andrew. It's an absolute pleasure. What are you struggling with in your life? Let us know in chat. We're talking today about fear and how to overcome it. What I'm trying to say, guys, is I got that thing done. I got it done in one day. One day. I spent probably 8 hours on it. And I did it through this 3-step process. I named the fear that I had. I challenged the story. Is that fear based in truth? Or is it just me projecting? And I took one small action to start with. I didn't try to tackle the whole thing at once. I took one small action, which led me naturally to another action, to another action, to another action. So that's the 3-step. That's this 3-step process for you. Now I want to give you, here's a little strategy. This is my little framework for you this week, because every week I like to give you a little framework. And I know not all of these are going to be, you're not going to grab onto every one of these, but it's my job to give you tools for your toolbox. So here's another tool for your toolbox. This is what I call the blueprint. Actually, it's kind of a backward blueprint. And this is just a quick thing that will help you get through when you're paralyzed. So the first thing that you can do is you picture yourself 6 months from now, having achieved whatever it is that you're stuck on. So whatever it is you're stuck on right now, you have to be able to visualize yourself on the other side of that. If you can't visualize yourself on the other side of it, you'll never get there. So step 1 is visualize yourself. What does it look like in 6 months when I've achieved the breakthrough? Right? The second thing that you do is you go, okay, well, that's what it looks like. Now, just what do I have to do to get there? Alex Hormozy is great. One of the things he talks about is he's like, you figure out how much money you want to make in a year, and then you just figure out what it is you do, and you figure out how many of those you need to do in order to get there. Let's see. Oh, sorry. Let me finish this up and then I'll get to chat real fast. And then the third thing is you just work backwards, right? Step by step. And you're like, okay, well, what happened right before I got to that? Oh, okay. I did this. What happened before that? I did this. I did this. I did this. I did this all the way back, right? Until you get to today. And then when you get to today, you take that action. Oops. I'm sorry, Turnip. You got modded because my channel mods are super conservative. Let's see. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So the whole point of this is reverse engineering success, right? Without getting caught in what's here. Because what's here, our fear is here in the present. It's not in the future. In the future, we've already worked our way through that fear. And your brain loves this kind of clarity. You need a path to get yourself started from the win and not from the worry. And that's kind of where this is going. Let's say I'm not afraid of fear of failure. I'm afraid of not being a fully responsible steward of the opportunities I've been blessed with. That's a code for a fear of failure, and my children too. Cycling economic stock. So this is something, and again, I'm not like taking you to the woodshed on this, but when I say I'm afraid of not being fully responsible for things, what I am saying is, and because I use this one too, I use it all the time. I'm afraid that I'm not going to appropriately take care of things. What I'm saying is I'm afraid I'm not good enough to do that. Right? I'm afraid I haven't built structures in my life that will allow me to do that thing. So it is a fear of failure. It's a fear of failure. We just like to label it in response. We like to twist it up in responsibility because responsibility makes us feel better about it. But really, at the end of the day, what the fear is that I'm not up to the responsibility. So, something to think about. And my children too, being afraid of not doing as well as you could have is different from a fear of failure. I would argue that it's not. Except there's an intersection where not achieving the best outcome can still be considered marginal failure, not abject failure. Should we not pursue excellence and be frustrated when we, upon reflection, recognize we or others don't make the most of the opportunity? That's the difference, Doc. Right? So the difference is when I am afraid that I'm not up to something, right? When I'm not up to doing the best in something, that means that is exactly the opposite of striving for perfection. Striving for perfection includes the word striving, and that's the word that we leave out. We leave out the word striving because what we do is we substitute the word yearning for perfection, for striving for perfection. Striving, the word indicates that we are actually reaching. It's actually a trying, right? But what happens to us so many times, and I'm not saying this happens with you because I know you and I know that you take steps towards being the best. But what I'm saying is, as a general category, what happens is when we categorize ourselves as somebody who is striving for perfection, if we're not moving towards perfection, then we're not moving at all, and we're not really striving, right? We're living in that world where we're just in our own heads about it, right? And that doesn't actually move us. So I hear what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying 100%. But I would challenge you, right, to stop and think, where has this need for perfection paralyzed me? And what is it about me in that area of my life where I feel like I can't do that? Where I feel like I can't do good enough, right? Or where do I learn to accept the 70% that does actually get the job done? That's a big thing with me too sometimes. Let's see. Have you ever read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F? Yes, I have. Great book, fabulous book. Definitely love that book to death. It's one of the books I found that helped me through a bad time. 100%. I love it, Turnip. That's a fabulous book. It's one that I have used as well, and I love that book. So definitely, guys, go check that out. It's super good. Also, James Clear's Atomic Habits, another amazing book. Extreme Ownership by the Navy SEALs. And, of course, Mind Shift by Erwin Raphael McManus, who's one of my personal coaches. A lot of great books out there. A lot of good books. I've got a book coming out later this year. It's just called Be Great because, why not stick with a brand that works? And it will be out in December of this year. So there we go. So, okay. So that's my framework, guys. That's my framework for dealing with fear. And I think that anytime that we're thinking that our problem is confusion, or thinking our problem is perfection, or thinking that our problem is overcommitment, like we should start to look for the places where we're afraid. So that is what I would say. That's the one I'm waiting for. It's coming out, Style. I'm in the final rewrite right now. It's coming out. And also, I do also write a weekly newsletter. Right there, andrewburkham.substack.com. Please go subscribe. It's free, and I think it's good. I think it's really good, guys. Yeah, and you don't have to, I don't know, you don't have to do anything. Just check it out. Every week it's more of this kind of thing. It's a little bit more expanded. And I do an audio version, so you can listen if you don't want to watch. But go check that out. Honestly, my next book will come out of those posts. So if you want to get if you want to get a little heads up on my next book. By the way, I will real quick say I'm also in the early planning stages of my third book, and my third book is going to be a book for people who are new to management. So if you are new to management, or if you know somebody who is, that was one of the things that I've done for many, many years is I've helped teach people how to be managers, down to the basic things: how to have a difficult conversation, how to do performance management, how to coach people, how to train people. So I'm going to be collaborating. I hope, I'm going to be collaborating with a friend of mine who is also a genius in this particular area. And that's going to be my next book. So I haven't decided what the title is yet, but it's going to be all about management and how to manage people in a way that's responsible, respectful, and workable, and leads to excellence too. So I got a question this week. Let's see. Did I just get the one? I think I just got the one, but let's go to Q&A here. Oh, I have a few. Okay. This is great. Okay. Cool. I like this. Okay, let's jump in. So, how do you manage to balance everything in life in a healthy or meaningful way is the first one. Let's see. I'm curious, how about being hypercritical of yourself? What's your view on that? That's a great question, right, Turnip? And so I would say that if you're hypercritical of yourself, it's going to go right back to that perfectionism category. And perfectionism is usually an identity problem. Perfectionism very rarely has to do with anything other than your identity. And there is something about the way that you see yourself, or there is something about the lack of clarity that you have for your future self that is holding you up and going, oh, well, see, there's evidence. There's evidence that I can't. There's evidence that I'm not good enough. There's evidence that I can't, that I can't be responsible for that. There's evidence. So the way to get out of that, the way to spiral your way out of that, is to start to collect evidence that you can. And the way that you start to collect evidence that you can is you build disciplines. I have a framework that's called IDEA, IDEA. It stands for identity, discipline, execution, and accountability. And the D part of it is discipline. And disciplines are things that you do every day that move you in the direction that you want to go. So identity tells you where you want to go. And disciplines help you go, okay, well, here's a building block I'm going to do. Here's a building block I'm going to do. Here's a building block I'm going to do. All of these moving me in the direction that I want to go. So what you have to do is you have to build a system that says these are the disciplines that I'm going to do. And then when you do those disciplines, you have to learn to celebrate the little wins along the way, because those little wins along the way are the evidence that refutes your evidence that you're not who you want to be. So that is one thing that I would recommend for that. And I could do a whole show on that. But let me get to this question that came in earlier. It's, how do you manage balancing everything in life in a healthy or meaningful way? So I don't like the word balance. Thanks. Yeah, you're welcome. And I would love to, by the way, turn up, if you !Discord, I've got a Discord community. A lot of it's around my streaming, around my, gaming streaming and stuff like that. But there is also a coaching section in there. So if you go !Discord, that can show you how to get attached to that Discord. If you do !Coaching, talk to you a little bit more about how you can get involved with in a coaching relationship as well. So there you go. Thank you, Style. I appreciate you. Okay, so I don't like the word balance, guys, because the universe is not designed in balance. A lot of people think it is. It's designed in balance. So all the planets are in the perfect orbits, and it's all in balance. It's not balance, guys. It's not balance. It is tension. The universe is not designed in balance. It's designed in tension. And your life is designed for tension, not for balance. Because here's the thing. Balance implies that you're sitting in the center all the time. But a life well lived does not live in the center all the time. Sometimes it's got to pull a little harder this way. And guess what? That's going to create tension at this end. So if you have work life, right? Work life balance is the one that we always like to talk about. Let's say this is work and this is life. And so now if I need to spend some more time on work, there is tension between me and my personal life. But guess what? That tension is really important, because that tension reminds us not to forget that thing. So the question isn't how do we live in balance, it's how do we live in proper tension, and how do we come back to the center when the time is to live in the center. So here is what I have found. The first thing is that you've got you got to know what's most important right now, right? If you cannot answer the question in your life, what is most important right now, please get a coach. It doesn't have to be me, right? It doesn't have to be me. Get a coach. Because that's the first question you got to be able to answer in your life is what's most important right now? Because not everything matters equally. Because if everything matters equally, then nothing matters at all, right? If everything is a priority, then nothing is in a priority. So get your top priority down. That's first. Second, disciplines. Your disciplines, look at them and determine whether or not they reflect your values. So don't try and fit in, right? Don't try and like squeeze in the things that are important. Oh, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to squeeze in my workout in between. And I'm going to squeeze this in. And I'm going to get this in. I'm going to write for 15 minutes a day. No, build your days around what's important. Structure your days around what's important. And if that means you restructure your days, I don't want to get up at 5:30 in the morning to go to the gym. But if I don't get up at 5:30 to go to the gym, then my piece that I write every day doesn't get written. I don't get my deep work time before I have to do, the meetings that start at 8. It's the whole thing, right? So build routines that reflect your values and build your day around what's most important right now. And then the third thing is say no to things. Say no to things. It's okay. People won't hate you. You won't be an outcast. No one will murder you. Hey, Eve. I'm excited for your book release in December. Maybe I'll come out on my birthday, and maybe it'll come out on my birthday. Maybe it will. That'd be awesome. It'd be so good. I didn't know you were a December birthday, Eve. By the way, hello and welcome. It's good to see you here. So say no to good things so that you can say yes to the right things, right? Again, overcommitment is not a scheduling problem. If you're overcommitted, it's not because your scheduling is bad. It's because you do not have clarity around what's most important in your life. Or it's because you're afraid. Because you're using overcommitment as a shield, like we talked about earlier, right? So that's kind of my way to manage life balance is know what's most important right now. Make sure that your days are structured around that and that your routines, the disciplines that you're building are structured around what's most important right now. And then just say no to things. It's okay. You can do it. I believe in you. If you need help with that, by all means, please get in touch with me. Let's see. I think we have about another 10 minutes. Just do the gym more, and then you can lift all the tensions, get tensional gains. Yes, exactly. Just say no. I'm awful at. So if you guys haven't, I'll give it to you real fast. I have a 3-step filter for saying no to things, okay? And all of this requires you to know what's most important right now. And it requires you to know your identity, your future identity, where you're going. Number one, if it is not in line with your mission, if it is not in line with what you were put on this earth to do, if it is not in line with that best self that's waiting for you up the road, then say no to it, right? Say no to it. If it is not in line with your resources, meaning I don't have it's going to take food off my table. Now, here's the thing. Again, as a coach, the one thing I will tell you is invest in yourself first. Invest in yourself first with your money. Invest in yourself first. Invest in other stuff later. Okay? If you're a streamer right now and you're, really confused about where to go and your solve for that is to buy a better camera, no, stop it. Invest in yourself first. Get a coach. Get a streaming coach or, get a program, something, right? That is going to teach you how to get clarity around how you're going to succeed, right? Buy the camera later. Buy the camera when you're successful. The camera is not going to make you successful. Invest in yourself first. That being said, resources. If it's going to take food off your table, then now is not the time for it. Don't do it, right? If it's going to kill you in some emotional way, don't do it, right? Build up an emotional resilience first. So if it's not in line with your resources, say no. And if it's not in line with your trajectory, say no. And that kind of sounds like I'm going back to the first one, but it's not, right? What you need to do is you need to look at the direction you're actually moving. Now, the first one is if it's not in line with your mission. So if it's not in line with what you're put on the earth to do, the last one is about if it's not in line with making you into the best person that you could be, the best version of yourself, then just say no to it, right? And then if you've got time, go back and pick some of that stuff up. But if it doesn't fit those three, then say no, right? If you have an abundance of time, then do whatever you want. It's fine. But if you don't, then that's your filter right there. Clip. So difficult not to care though about anything about things you should say. No. Oh, it's impossible not to care. But you have to train yourself to care, but also recognize that you have to have priorities. Right? It's all about priorities. That's the key. Okay. Okay. Next question. I'm gonna try and get both of these in before we go. How can you cope with an emotional life event and get back to streaming? Boy, oh boy. Here's what I'll tell you. That's a hard one. How can you cope with an emotional life event and get back to streaming? Here's what I'll tell you. Is this. The emotional life event's not going to go away. That's not going to change. There are things in our lives that we will carry with us for the rest of our lives. That's what we call scars. Now, a lot of us like to keep those scars as open wounds. We don't like to bandage them. We like to look at them. We like to show each other, how much they're bleeding. We like to point to those things. Now, what that is doing is, I think that is a part of culturally we are so sensitive to trauma that we have told people that trauma is who we are when we've experienced it. Well, a couple of things. The first, we've all experienced trauma. Everybody has. And I'm not diminishing yours. I'm just saying you're not the only one, right? So you have to learn how to assimilate the trauma and to move with it. Because if you look at the Tickety Talks or if you look at the Instagram, if you look at all those things, a lot of people who like to soak in their trauma. And there's a season when it's okay to grieve, but there's a season when it's time to move, right? And so you need to decide when the time is to move. That usually comes from having people in your life who can hold kind of space with you, but also who are there for you when you're ready to start moving. So that's the first thing is know that your trauma, those emotional events, they're not going to go away. It's not going to get better. It's not just going to magically be better one day. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and it's going to be all roses and that thing didn't happen. But guess what? You got to live your life anyway. And so the question is, what kind of life do you want to live? Do you want to live a life that is stopped by the thing that happened to you? Or do you want to live a life that is moving towards who you want to be? That's what you've got to ask yourself. Luigi, bro, what's up, dude? Don't feel sorry you're late. It's totally fine. I'm glad to have you here. It's very good to have you here. So that's the first thing I would say. How do you cope with an emotional life event and get back to streaming? Just, I hate to be the Nike guy, but here's the thing, right? Just do it. So wake up in the morning, put the streaming clothes on, and just sit down in front of the computer and go. Just like that first time when you were afraid to click go live because you didn't know what it was going to be like, you're back at that spot, but you've already been at that spot. So you know what? Do it. And again, start small. Always start small. Don't feel like, streamers, don't feel like you have to go 8 hours to be a good streamer, okay? That's the thing. You don't have to do that. It's fine. If you have the time to do that and you like doing it, by all means. But don't feel like you have to do that, right? But don't commit to 8 hours on the first day when you're coming back from a traumatic experience. Commit to an hour. And then see how you feel, right? But just like when you're going back to the gym after a surgery, if you've ever done that, you can't go back to the weight that you were at before. Like you can't go back to the same, the same activities that you were at before you had that surgery. You got to work your way towards that, right? Good news. Tell me good news, man. Kind of like the realization that love is an action, not an emotion. You have to choose choose and act on it. So, Doc, again, Frequency the Maven. I see it a little bit differently. I believe that love is definitely not an emotion, but I don't think it's an action. I think it's a discipline. And the difference here is actions are things that we do once, right? An action is something, it implies, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to love you. And yes, I may love you today, I may love you tomorrow, but I don't want you to build, when you love somebody, I don't want you to build a pattern of actions around loving them. I want you to build a discipline of loving them, which means that there's going to be a series of different things that are going to go into it. Things like, I'm going to believe the best in this person. I'm not going to talk badly about this person, but behind their back, which by the way you shouldn't do with anybody, but neither here nor there. I'm going to speak truth to this person, but my intent is going to be to use everything I have to help them get to be the best person that they can be, in the understanding that they're going to make me the best person that I'm going to be. So I believe that love is a discipline, right? Just like I believe faith is a discipline. It's not, if you have faith in something, I don't believe that you succeed by just doing things. You succeed by creating a discipline, right? So I didn't mean to derail you. It's fine. Discipline is a series of planned actions. We're on the same page. Yeah, I know. As you may have noticed, words are important to me. So I like when I'm talking about the frameworks. The reason is because the words that we say mean something, right? Just like when we talked about naming your fears. That's why. Luigi, so I've graduated now. Your wise words definitely helped guide me throughout the years. I appreciate it a lot. Well, that means a lot to me, my friend. I appreciate it. It was an analog, not a divergence. Great. Good. Okay. How do you cope with an emotional event? First thing is know that it's always going to be with you. Don't try and heal it all in one day, but do try and heal it, right? Know that you will carry the scar. That is not going to change. If it is something that you did, you will bear the weight of that. You will bear the consequences of that. And one of the reasons that we fail in character is that we believe that what we do will not have consequences that last for our whole lives. We honestly believe that we can get out of jail free, and you can't. You cannot. What you do in this life echoes in eternity. Thank you, Gladiator. It's one of my favorite movies, but I think that phrase is good. What we do in this life echoes in eternity. And if you believe in a higher power, as I do, then there's a true echo into eternity. And I'm not one of these hellfire guys that says, hey, you know what, you're going to be judged for every little thing, and everything is, I believe that there's a system that frees you from that. But your all of your existence is affected by the way that you control your character. And so if you have failed, if you have had a failure of character, that's gonna go with you for the rest of your life. Even if not, even if it's something that you had no control over, it's gonna go with you for the rest of your life, right? But you have the decision on how your life moves from this moment. And even if you caused that harm, you get to make the decision of how you behave going forwards. Are you not entertained? Thank you for being here and talking to us, and thank you for being you. Well, thank you for being you, Eve. I appreciate you so much. I do. Okay, so that's that. And then second part of that is small steps, but active steps. Not preparing, not investing in stuff. Invest in yourself. Get yourself a coach if you can, right? If you can't, watch a lot of YouTube videos. It's the next best thing. It's not the same, but it's the next best thing. Watch a lot of YouTube videos on how to stream. Always good stuff. This is great. I love it. Thank you so much. Let's see. Last question. Here we go. And this is going to take us out. How do we maintain a good balance of sleep, exercise, and healthy food? Again, you don't. You have to maintain attention. But here's the secret. One of the last chapters in my book is called Maximize, Don't Optimize. And I know those are synonyms. I get it. I'm aware that those are synonyms, maximize and optimize. But here's where I just created a little bit of a, I made up a little crack in between the two of those. And the reason is because you go on to, again, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, and they're like, you got to optimize your routines, optimize your health, optimize. And it's like, Sunday, like the old monster truck things. And the thing is, you can't optimize everything in your life, because to optimize it means that everything is perfect in that area of your life. And so, like me, I decided I was going to optimize my sleep routine about a year ago. And so I did all the things, like no blue light, no screens. I got the red lights going on in the bedroom, and I would go to bed right at the certain time, and then I would, do yoga nidra, and that would put me to sleep, and then I would wake up at the certain time, and I would get bright light into my eyes, and I would do all those things. But like what I discovered was, in order to optimize that routine, I had to go to bed at like 9:30 at night, which is fine. Like, I'm an old guy. That's a totally rational time to go to bed. But here's the problem. My wife works a lot of times until after 9:30. She doesn't get home sometimes till 10, 10:30, maybe even later sometimes. And I had to decide what's the higher value? What's the defining value here? Is it to optimize the sleep routine? Or is it to spend time with my wife when I can, which is the most important thing? And so I said, okay, well, guess what? Can't optimize that. What do I do? Oh, I can maximize it. So I can still go to bed, like we can still go to bed at a reasonable hour. My wife and I go to bed at 10:30 most nights. I can still make sure, that I don't, do too much screen time, before bed. I can still, listen to the audio that I listen to. I can still make sure I wake up first thing, in the morning, and that I don't shut off my alarm, and that I get bright light into my eyes, sunlight, as soon as I can. And I can maximize that. I just can't optimize it. And that's okay. So how do you maintain a good balance of sleep, exercise, and healthy food? Maximize, don't optimize, right? Make sure you're doing the best that you can with what you have to work with. That is my recommendation. Always good stuff. This is great. Where can I find this book? The book, My Book Be Great, will be available on Amazon come December, assuming that Amazon it gets through all the hoops that it has to. So it will be available. I'll make sure I get you pre-order information, and if for whatever reason you want a signed copy or something like that, I'll do maybe a mini book tour as well. In some of the areas. So, all right, guys, listen, that is it for me. I hope that I hope you've gotten something out of this, but I just want to leave with a challenge. I always want to leave you with a challenge. I want you to do something today for me, okay? I want you to pick something you've been avoiding today, just like that audio thing that I was working on. I want you to pick something you've been avoiding, if it's a conversation, if it's a project, if it's a priority, whatever it is, and I want you to write it down. And then when you wrote it down, I want you to set a 5-minute timer. And when you set that 5-minute timer, I want you to start. Do not wait for the fear to go away. Do not wait for it to subside. It is not going to subside. I want you to set a 5-minute timer and start, because what you will find is you'll find that you know the name of that fear now, and you will find that once you start to move, it's going to shrink, right? Because you're not confused. You're not too busy. You're not underprepared. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're scared, and that's okay. It's okay. That's human. But let's not live in fear. Let's not build a life where fear gets to decide what we do next, okay? So if you got challenged today, I would love to hear what your one thing is. Hit me up in Discord, or DM me, whatever it is. If you need help building momentum around the things that matter, reach out. Again, I coach high capacity individuals who are just tired of being busy and not moving forward. So that's what I do. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you. Signed copy, yes, but unfortunately I'm on the other side of the world. We'll figure out a way to get it shipped. Thanks as always, leaving with some lovely, strong thoughts. I love it. All right, my friends. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Andrew Burkham, andrewburkham.substack.com. Go to ideatrainingacademy.com to learn about my private client coaching and my group coaching programs. Guys, I do this because I love you. I will always have some things that are going to cost money because I got to pay the bills, but I will always do this for free because above all else, I believe in you. And I believe that everyone has the power within them to pursue their moment of greatness. And so, as always, I say, get out there and be great.
I've been caught in the whispers, lost in my doubts, tangled in stories I can't live without. But there's a fire, it's burning inside, calling me forward, I can't run and hide. It's not about perfection, it's about the climb, breaking through the limits, one step at a time. With every breath, I'm closer to the dream, a life that's bold, a heart that gleams. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all. Let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate. This is your moment, go on, be great. perfection, it shows who I am. But it's just the beginning, not the end of the plan. Through trials and heartache, I've learned how to fight, to shape my tomorrow. I start with tonight. It's not about the shadows, it's about the flame, fueling the courage to rewrite the game. Every step forward, I leave fear behind. Greatness is waiting, it's yours and it's mine. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all. Let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate. This is your moment, go on, be great. Through the storms and the pain, I'm finding my way again. With purpose, with heart, I'll never fall apart. It's the journey, not just the end, a story that begins again. I'll build it, I'll create a life that resonates.